Alright, so you came to this video because you have questioned your faith in humanity. And I'm not just going to throw you some lovey-dovey video that is a compilation of kind and humane acts. This is a video that actually explains, using big picture thinking, why you should have faith in humanity going forward into the future. Now, the news and the media and just about anything you see online is always shoving fear down your throat by depicting stories of racism, sexism, murder, war, genocide, environmental destruction, political corruption, and much more. Many people would take this as evidence that humanity is doomed, and that operating from selfishness, greed, and causing corruption is just human nature. It's just the way it is. And I kind of used to think this way myself, but this fear that is instilled within you causes you to get very lost in the content of the world, which prohibits one from seeing the structure, the greater picture, and what's really going on here on Earth. And while we can't deny that throughout history, we have brutally murdered each other, fought countless wars, enslaved people, committed genocide, and done many other unthinkable, terrible, atrocious things, we have progressed to the point where we are not doing that as much or on a level as high as before. And actually right now, we are living at perhaps the single most peaceful time in all of human history. We as humans are very unique. The world has never had a species as intelligent as we are, a species so in control of the fate of everything on the planet. And the odds are that if you're watching this video, you live in a comfortable home. You easily have access to sufficient food. You have clean running water, electricity, you have at least semi-quality healthcare that will help you out if anything goes wrong. You probably have a smartphone, a TV, a refrigerator, and freezer that will preserve your food, a car, and pretty much everyone else around you has all these things as well. Do you realize how amazing that is? The people that came before you were living in huts, had to walk a mile and back to get water from the river that wasn't even clean. They had to go out and chase down animals every day for food. They shit in holes. They didn't even know what electricity was, and they could not even fathom of technologies such as a smartphone or a car. Their only concern was, how am I going to survive today? And it's only through the generations upon generations of their struggles are you sitting there in your home, all cozied up and comfy, watching this video. But I want your appreciation for humanity's progress to go even deeper than this. I want you to understand what the world was like when tribes got bigger and when full-blown civilization began to develop. Because even at that time, the world was still a terrible place for most people. I want you to realize that the freedoms you have, such as freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and other stuff like that, is a miracle. Most societies back in the day were ones of strict hierarchical systems in which a king ruled and the majority were peasants who lived miserably. And anyone who spoke out against the ruler would have been exiled, thrown in prison, or murdered. You didn't have rights. You had little to no freedoms. You were more or less a slave to the society you were in, even if you weren't an actual slave. Religion took hold a couple thousand years ago, and you were forced to conform to the religion or else you'd suffer great consequences. We'd go to war with and downright kill people who didn't think in line with this, the Spanish Inquisition. This was also the era when empires were extremely common, as these were the times when dominance ruled the psyche. Rule and order came by overpowering others, and it's really only in the last few hundred years that this whole concept of rights and freedom has even taken hold at all. Before, there was no such thing as rights. If someone above you wanted you dead, you'd for sure be dead. And only 150 years ago has slavery been abolished in the United States and many other areas around the world. Only 150 years. That is only 2 lifetimes. So appreciate the sheer progress that humanity has made. Realize how great your life is in comparison with those who came before you. The scope of human accomplishment is absolutely incredible. No one individual did this. It was through a collective effort. Only through the suffering of billions who came before you can you be living the life of luxury that you are now. And only through taking a look at this bigger picture can we see that humanity as a whole is following an arc, and this arc is progressing us in a way so that we become more loving, more understanding, and more conscious of everyone else and everything around us. This arc is taking ourselves out of the primitive, survival aspects of our psyche and allowing us to see, feel, understand, and empathize with everything around us. The less time we spend worrying about our basic needs, the more time we can spend about worrying about others. And only through this comfort we now have can we even begin to tackle problems such as racism, sexism, income inequality, etc. Societies may have slight ebbs and flows, waxings and wanings, progressions and regressions, but over time, they move forward towards higher love, higher empathy, and higher consciousness. And it's like there is an intelligent force guiding this entire process. And this force that composed both your body and my body through billions of years of evolution is the same force that will continue to push us forward in the future. And that's the key point I want you to take away from this video, that there is a force driving us. And it's not easy to explain because it is so complex. It doesn't have form, it's not tangible. But it is fascinating that the sole purpose of an individual is to survive and reproduce. It is ingrained into every single life form, from humans to single bacteria cells. Survive and reproduce. Live long enough so you can reproduce, so you can keep the cycle going. And what we are as humans, the most intelligent, the most complex species currently known in the universe, is precisely a manifestation of billions and billions and billions of beings before us carrying out the act of surviving and reproducing. And over time, different groups have broken off from each other, started to survive and reproduce in different ways, and then ultimately, that's how a new species was born. And this is all just nature taking its course. It's the code of life. And this code is seemingly bringing us towards higher complexity, higher consciousness, and I truly believe higher love. We are no longer these primitive creatures that are all about eating, sleeping, and having sex. We are at work at something much greater than that. We've become self-aware. We've realized we are just one individual in a sea of people, that we are just a single speck of dust in a vast universe. And we've realized that the world isn't all about me or just my group. Now, some people still think that way. Some people are still all about me, but I feel most of us has realized that thinking in such a selfish way is not only destructive to ourselves, but also others in the world as well. And for the people who still do only think about me, or just my group, and don't take the perspective of others into account, the task is to lift those people up, not demonize them, or hate them, or disidentify from them. We're at a unique time in history where we are developing rapidly. Think about how different the world looked just one lifetime ago. We're in a time where we are making rapid technological advancement. We are making groundbreaking scientific discoveries. In only a couple decades, we could have access to AI that could literally make us superhuman. And I think all of this in the end will make us a much more magnificent species than we already are. I firmly believe that our intellectual, technological, and spiritual capacity gives us the ability to work through any challenges that we are faced with, whether that be political, environmental, or even something like an asteroid heading towards Earth. Take a deep breath and realize how amazing it is to just be alive during this revolutionary time we are going through. Take a look at your body, how beautiful it is. It took nature billions of years to assemble itself into that. How amazing is that? There's no need to dwell on the negativity and fear you are instilled with every single day. Instead, focus on the miracle that it is to be alive. You got this. We got this. Anything that comes our way, we got it. The future is bright, and I can't wait to see what it holds. This isn't to say that we ignore all the things that are bad in this world. There is a lot of hate in the world. There will continue to be a lot of hate. There will be atrocities committed in the future. There will be catastrophic events. But it is through this suffering that we awaken. If we never suffered, if everything was always perfect, there would be no need for change. things only change because people suffer, and it's the strongest suffering that yields the greatest change. So I hope this video restored your faith in humanity. I could have appealed to pathos and simply just showed you a compilation of humane acts, but that would not actually give you any hope from a logical standpoint. If you think this arc I've described, this arc of moving towards higher empathy, higher consciousness, and higher love is just bullshit, you probably do not realize that there are a couple scientific models that have been created from decades of studies, surveys, and other data by some of the world's best researchers that precisely depict this arc I've described. One of the models is spiral dynamics, and another is Susan Cook-Greuter's model of ego development. And what these models have in common is that they show how not only individuals, but also humanity as a whole develop as time goes on. And as one progresses, they develop an ability to take on more perspective, which in turn yields more empathy, which in turn causes their thinking to become less and less about their own personal needs and more about others. Maslow's hierarchy of needs also perfectly depicts this. So it is no secret that humanity develops in a way that strays further and further from the ego and closer towards ego transcendence, which is precisely why I have faith that as time goes on, as we evolve, we'll shed away the ego more and more, and as a result, we'll be living much more peacefully. In next week's video, I will be explaining the spiral dynamics model, so stay tuned for that. And that's all I really got for today, guys. If you wish to support my work on a deeper level, I do have a Patreon, where I run a book club and have other tiers as well. So if you got a few extra smackaroos to shell out, I'd love your support. It means so much to me. And as always, guys, have a great day and peace.